Hey everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this short video. Now this video is for any musician, but mainly focused on anybody that plays the acoustic or electric guitar and leads worship in a worship team of any size, any ability. A friend came to me the other day and said, can you teach me some tips for leading from an acoustic guitar? And I was kind of honoured that he asked me, but then I kind of thought, I'm not too sure if I've got anything great to tell you. But then I was like, well, I've been to music college, I've studied this thing, I've played it for a number of years and have the honour of leading worship week in, week out all around the world. So I thought, I'll try and think of some great little techniques and really simple stuff that's going to help anybody that's leading from this instrument. Because leading from acoustic guitar, even though it's fairly common, it's pretty difficult to do. So if you lead from a piano that has multiple sounds, you can stack up chords and invert chords in really amazing ways. You can change and throw in the Jesus pads if you need to, or put the string section in. But this is all we have. So I'm trying to think of some great little techniques that can help us. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when we're leading worship and leading a team, we never want the instrument that we play to be a blockage in our worship. Now that can just come through time and experience and those type of things. But if I can teach a couple of great tips and techniques that help our guitar playing become more fluid to allow us to do the job in hand, which is to lead worship and lead the band and lead the people. So let's go on to this first one. Now this technique is super simple, so apologies if you are far more down the line than I am as a guitarist. This is just a basic thing to help some of those people that are starting out with chords and those type of things. And by no means do I know exactly what I'm doing with this thing. I can point you in the direction of people that do though. The guitarist in the band at the moment, Gareth Hutchinson, he's incredible. I'll put his details below. Anything complex, ask him. Or my friend Noel Robinson, who's an absolute monster guitar player. He can tell you all the stuff that I get wrong. But here is some simple stuff. So, in contemporary popular Christian worship music, usually we only play around with 4, maybe 5 chords, which is fairly sad, but it does make our job really simple today. So, we're just going to look at 4 basic chords in the key of C. And if we were to use the numbers system, which I could maybe talk about in another video, that's a really simple way. It's kind of a universal language of talking about music. We're going to look at a 1, 4, 6, 5 progression in the key of C. So don't worry too much if you don't know what that is. So if we're playing our open C chord, usually when we kind of first start playing guitar, this is probably what it would look like. This is how we play it. And we'd let that ring out and it'll sound very nice. Very bright, and the chord is made up of 3 notes, and that's what we call a triad. But in the key of C and the C major chord, it's C, E and G. So that's just a way of playing those notes. So what I like to do, because that sounds a little bit too nice, we need to change that sound, but I'm going to teach a new kind of C home position that we're going to lock in place, and we're going to use 2 fingers that are going to stay in the same place pretty much throughout the whole of these 4 progressions. Because what we want to do is minimal movement on the fretboard means minimal worry. You could tweet that, I just made that up. I think it makes sense. Right, so what we're going to do is our first finger, we're going to put it on the 1st fret on the B string, just here. And then we're going to put our 4th finger on the 3rd fret rather, on the top E string here, and that's a G note. So that is a interval we call a 5th. So that will sound like this, which sounds really nice. And those 2 positions, they're going to stay with us pretty much the whole way through. So get used to that position being locked in. So if we just play our normal C chord, just open, how we probably learned it from day one, it sounds like that. Which sounds very nice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to put these 2 positions in, and then I'm just going to leave out my 2nd finger and just put my 3rd finger on the root note here, which is the C, and I'm going to play that out. Sounds nice and full, sounds great. So if we want to go to the 4th in the chord progression, which would be an F, all I need to do is I'm going to keep those fingers exactly locked in place. And instead of the root note being on the C, I'm just literally going to move it down 1 fret, 1 string, and we're going to play that out as the F chord, keeping everything the same. So if we go C to F, minimal movement. I've moved one finger, one string. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our second finger to make this A minor position, but we're going to still keep that fifth interval in at the bottom there. So once again, minimal movement, and we're on the sixth chord, which is the relative minor of the key. And then to get to G, we just do one slight change. So we're going to put our third finger on the root position on the G. Now if we left this finger on, it would make it like a G suspended chord, which would sound like, which sounds unresolved. So you can take that finger off to make it kind of a normal G. So if we were to play those chords all together with that kind of home position locked in, we've got minimal kind of movement around the fretboard, which means I can kind of take my eyes off what I'm doing here and concentrate. So it would sound something like this. So we've played 4 chords there, which would make up most of our contemporary Christian music right there, maybe in a slightly different order, and we haven't had to move really anything at all to make that happen. Now, just a final little trick before I sign off this video. So if we looked at the song "Oh Praise the Name," commonly we would do that in the key of C. It would feature all of those chords. Now there is one time in this song where we do something slightly different, which is called a chord inversion. So if we look at this C chord, which is C, E and G, now piano players can be really fancy and do this really, really easily. For us guys, it takes a little bit more work. So I'm going to stop at the point where we're going to invert the chord, and what we're basically doing is the C, E and the G. Instead of playing the root note as the C, we're going to just leave this E string at the top open, and we're going to play the E string first, which will invert that chord to a first inversion, which is going to make it sound slightly different to playing the normal C. It's going to add a little bit of a different feel to the song, and you'll see where it comes. So, oh, praise the name, which is C, to our fourth chord, which is F, of the Lord our God, back to C, down to the 6th. Oh, praise his name, to 5th G, forevermore. And this is where the inversion comes in. So we're going to play the E. So praise his name forevermore, for endless days we will, 4, 6, sing his praise. For, oh Lord our God, oh Lord our God. So there we go. 4 chords, C form position, making that your home. Try it this coming Sunday.